You're 30 days away from becoming a millionaire, and the strange thing is if someone looked at your life right now, they wouldn't notice anything different, nothing dramatic, nothing that signals that something big is about to happen. Just the same routine, the same environment, the same version of you on the surface, but what they can't see is the shift that has already started inside you, the way your thinking has changed, the way your priorities have quietly rearranged themselves, the way you've stopped chasing comfort and started chasing progress, and now every day feels the same on the outside, but completely different on the inside, because every action you take now has intention behind it, every decision carries weight, and every moment feels like it matters more than it ever did before. And it doesn't feel exciting, it doesn't feel cinematic, it feels repetitive, quiet, almost boring. But that's exactly what makes it powerful, because this is the phase where most people give up, not when things are impossible, but when nothing seems to be happening, when results are invisible, when effort feels disconnected from outcome. And this is where you stay, this is where you keep going, even when there's no reason to believe it's working other than the decision you made to not stop. Around day 30 you start noticing how quiet your life has become, not empty, but focused, like everything that doesn't contribute to your goal has slowly faded into the background. Distractions don't feel the same anymore, they don't pull you in like they used to, they feel like interruptions now, like obstacles. 261. And you start protecting your time without even thinking about it, saying no more often, choosing isolation over noise, choosing progress over comfort, and it's not something you announce, it's something that just happens, naturally, because you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed those distractions. Around day 29 you feel the pressure again, but it's not loud, it's not overwhelming, it's constant, like a quiet reminder sitting in the back of your mind, telling you that what you're building still hasn't shown up yet, that you're still in that phase where belief has to carry you more than results, and that's the hardest part, continuing when there's no external proof, continuing when everything still looks the same, but you've learned something important, that progress doesn't always show up immediately, that sometimes it builds beneath the surface, unnoticed, until it reaches a point where it can no longer stay hidden. And that understanding is what keeps you moving. Around day 28 your mind starts testing you again, bringing up old doubts, old fears, comparing your progress to others, making you question your pace, your direction, your decisions, and for a moment it feels real, it feels convincing, but you've been here before, and this time you don't let it control you, you recognize it as part of the process, not a sign to stop, and you keep going. Because you've learned that consistency matters more than certainty, that action matters more than perfect thinking. Around day 27 things start to feel repetitive in a way that challenges your patience, you're doing the same work, following the same process, and the results still haven't fully caught up, and this is where discipline becomes your advantage. Because motivation is gone by now, excitement has faded, and what's left is the ability to continue without needing a reason, without needing to feel good about it. Just showing up and doing what needs to be done, over and over again. Around day 26 you begin to notice how much sharper you've become, how quickly you make decisions, how little time you spend overthinking, because you've realized that clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from doing, from taking action and adjusting as you go, and that shift makes you faster, more efficient, more effective. Around day 25 you hit one of your lowest points, a moment where everything feels stuck again, where progress feels invisible, and it almost feels like you're back at the beginning, and for a second quitting feels like an option, like relief, like a way to escape the pressure, but you don't take it, you stay, you sit with the discomfort, you work through it, and that decision changes something in you, it builds resilience, it proves to you that you can handle this, that you can keep going even when it feels like nothing is working, and that realization becomes one of your greatest strengths. Around day 24 you start refining everything, cutting out what doesn't work, focusing only on what does, and your progress begins to accelerate, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing better, more intentional, more focused, more aligned with your goal. Around day 23 you feel a quiet confidence building, not loud, not obvious, but steady, like a foundation forming beneath you, something you can rely on even when things aren't perfect, and that confidence doesn't come from results. It comes from consistency, from showing up every day and doing the work, regardless of how you feel. Around day 22 you stop needing validation, you stop explaining your vision, you stop looking for approval, because you've realized that none of that matters, that your progress is not dependent on other people understanding what you're doing, and that independence frees you. It allows you to focus completely on your path without distraction. Around day 21 your routine becomes automatic. You don't question it anymore, you don't negotiate with yourself, you just execute, and that consistency compounds, building momentum in ways that aren't immediately visible, but are very real. Around day 20 the first real signs start to appear. Small wins, small progress, nothing dramatic, but enough to confirm that you're moving in the right direction, enough to remind you that your effort is not wasted, and that's all you need, just enough proof to keep going. Around day 19 your focus becomes intense, almost protective, like you're guarding something valuable, and you are. Your time, your energy, your momentum, and you stop allowing anything to interfere with it. Around day 18 you reflect on how far you've come, not just in results, but in mindset, in discipline, in identity, and that reflection strengthens your commitment even more. Around day 17 the small wins become more frequent, and with each one your confidence grows, not in a loud way but in a grounded, stable way that doesn't depend on constant success. Around day 16 you stop looking for shortcuts. You accept that this process takes time, that it requires effort, that it demands consistency, and instead of resisting that, you embrace it, because you understand that this is how real success is built. Around day 15 you feel a shift, something subtle but noticeable, like everything is starting to align, your habits, your mindset, your actions, and even though the final result isn't there yet, you can feel that it's getting closer. Around day 14 your execution becomes precise. Every action has purpose, every decision has direction, and you waste less time on things that don't matter. Around day 13 you start connecting everything, seeing how your efforts are building on each other, creating momentum that feels real. Around day 12 opportunities begin to appear, not randomly, but as a result of everything you've been doing, and you're ready for them, because you've prepared for this moment without even realizing it. Around day 11 your confidence solidifies, not because everything is perfect, but because you've proven to yourself that you can handle imperfection and still move forward. Around day 10 momentum becomes undeniable, things start moving faster, results become clearer, and it almost feels unreal because of how long everything felt stagnant. Around day 9 the pressure comes back, but now it feels different. It's not fear, it's anticipation, like you're standing right before something significant. Around day 8 you reflect on everything you've sacrificed, the comfort, the distractions, the old habits, and you realize that none of this would have been possible if you held on to those things. Around day 7 there's one last attempt from your mind to pull you back, to question everything, but it doesn't work, because you've built too much discipline, too much resilience, too much proof. Around day 6 everything feels aligned, your thoughts, your actions, your habits, all moving in the same direction, with clarity and purpose. Around day 5 you can feel it clearly now. The breakthrough is close, everything you've been building is right there, and instead of slowing down, you push forward with even more focus. Around day 4 your discipline reaches its peak, you operate without hesitation, without distraction, just execution, consistent and intentional. Around day 3 you look back and realize how much you've changed, how the version of you from a month ago wouldn't even recognize this mindset, this discipline, this level of control. Around day 2 everything slows down, like time is giving you space to fully step into who you've become, and you stay present, calm, ready, and then day 1 arrives, quietly, without warning, without dramatic buildup, just a simple moment where everything finally comes together, where the results match the effort, and you realize you've reached the milestone you've been chasing. And in that moment there's no loud celebration, no overwhelming emotion, just a deep, quiet understanding that you did it. And more importantly, you understand how you did it, through consistency, through discipline, through growth, through becoming someone capable of achieving it. And that's when it really hits you, that the money was never the real goal, it was the transformation, the habits you built, the mindset you developed, the person you became in those final 30 days, because that version of you is the real success, the one that doesn't disappear after the milestone, the one that can keep building, keep growing, keep achieving again and again. And as everything settles, you realize something most people never truly understand, that success doesn't suddenly appear, it builds slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore, and by then, you're already someone completely different. And even after that realization settles in, something else begins, something quieter but deeper, because reaching that point doesn't suddenly remove the habits you built, it reinforces them, and you notice that the same discipline that got you here doesn't disappear, it stays with you, shaping how you think, how you act, how you respond to everything that comes next. And for the first time you understand that this wasn't just about reaching a number, it was about building a version of yourself that operates differently from everyone else. A version that doesn't wait for motivation, that doesn't depend on perfect conditions, that doesn't stop when things feel uncertain. And that realization changes how you see everything, because now you recognize that the process you went through can be repeated, that the same focus, the same consistency, the same discipline can be applied again to reach even bigger goals. And that removes fear. It removes hesitation because you're no longer relying on luck or timing, you're relying on who you've become, and that makes you dangerous in a quiet way. Not loud, not obvious, but steady, controlled, intentional, and as the days continue you start to notice how differently you handle situations that used to affect you. Challenges that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable, setbacks that once slowed you down now barely interrupt your momentum. Because you've built resilience through repetition, through showing up every day when it wasn't easy, when it wasn't exciting, when it didn't feel worth it, and that consistency has rewired the way you operate. And even when things slow down again, even when progress becomes less visible, you don't panic, you don't question everything like before, you stay grounded, because you've seen what happens when you keep going, you've experienced the outcome of patience and discipline, and that experience becomes your confidence. Not temporary, not fragile, but solid, and over time you start to realize that this entire journey has shifted your identity, not just your results, because now you don't see yourself as someone trying to succeed, you see yourself as someone who executes, someone who builds, someone who follows through regardless of how they feel, and that identity carries into everything you do, making every future goal feel more achievable, more realistic, because you've already proven to yourself that you can go through the process, that you can endure the quiet phases, the repetitive days, the moments of doubt, and still come out on the other side with results, and that's when it becomes clear that what you gained is far more valuable than the outcome itself, because outcomes can change, numbers can go up and down, but the person you've become, the mindset you've built, the discipline you've developed, those things stay, those things compound, those things continue to create results long after the initial goal is reached. And as everything continues moving forward, you stop looking at success as a single destination, and start seeing it as a pattern, something you can recreate, something you can control through your actions and your habits, and that shift in perspective removes the pressure of needing everything to happen perfectly, because you know that even if things don't go exactly as planned, you have the ability to adjust, to rebuild, to continue, and that's what truly separates you now. Not the milestone you reached, but the process you understand, the consistency you've mastered, the mindset you've built, because that's what allows you to keep going, to keep improving, to keep building, long after the moment everyone else would have stopped. And as you move forward with this new understanding, you realize that the quiet phase you once struggled through was never something to escape, it was something to embrace, because that's where everything was built, that's where the foundation was created, that's where the real work happened, and without it, none of this would exist, and that's when it finally makes sense. That success was never something that suddenly appeared, it was something that was always forming, always building, always growing beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when it could no longer be hidden. And by the time that moment arrived, you were already ready for it, because you had already become the person capable of handling it, and that's what makes the difference. Not the timing, not the opportunity, but the transformation that happened long before anyone else could see it.